Hello class, let's go over the test review for our test tomorrow. Question number 1. Okay, on these it does say find the exact volume of each prism, and I'm going to have you round to the nearest tenth on each of these answers. Okay, so on number 1, okay, we've got a rectangular prism. That's the first thing you do anytime you look at one of these shapes. You determine what is the shape and what is it that I want to do with it. Okay, so in this one it is a rectangular prism, and we're going to find the volume. So we go to our formula chart and we find our formula, and you know that the basic formula that you're going to have is volume is equal to BH. And it's a capital B, so we know that's the area of the base. Okay, now since it is a box, we know we can just do length times width times height, and that will find the volume of that rectangular prism. So volume is equal to, well, the length is 12. Oh, and I wrote 11. Length is 12. Okay, and the width is 4, and the height is 10. Now, because it is a rectangular prism, it doesn't really matter the order in which you type in those numbers or put those numbers down. You just multiply them together, 12 times 4 times 10, and you should come up with 480, and it's meters cubed, because in volume, it's always going to be cubed. Number 2, okay, this one is a cylinder, and again, we're trying to find its volume. So, and for a cylinder, it also says volume is equal to capital BH. But again, the capital B is going to be the area of the base, and in this case, the base is a circle. So its volume is equal to pi r squared h. And now we just plug in our values. So it's very important that you write that formula down so you know what to actually do. Okay, so volume is equal to 3.14, because that's what we're using for pi, times the radius squared. Well, we know the radius, again, is the distance from the center to the circle. Okay, so that means I was given a radius here. So that's going to be 8 times, and then the distance between the two bases is 14. So we multiply that together, and you end up with an answer of 2,813.44. But since I'm having you round to the nearest tenth, we need to remember, we look at the hundredths place. If that number is 5 or more, you make the 4 1 more. It's not, so our answer is just 2,813.4, and in this case our label is centimeters, so centimeters cubed. Number 3 looks like a tent. Okay, so this one is actually a triangular prism. Okay, so again, same formula, volume is equal to capital BH. Okay, but in this particular case, we know that our base is a triangle. So if you remember correctly, we had two formulas for this. Volume is equal to base times height divided by 2, which is just the triangle part, times the distance between the two bases, which is what that height is. Or we had an alternate formula that you could have used, or that you can use, is volume is equal to length times width times height divided by 2. Okay, now I'm going to use the actual triangle formula, okay, in order to do this one, but the numbers will still be the same, as you probably remember in class. So volume is equal to, okay, now this first part of the formula is just dealing with this triangle, okay, this part right here. So that means our base and our height is what I'm looking for, okay? So, and we know that in any figure in the base, our base and height are always touched by that right angle. So in this case, it's 10 times 10. We're going to divide that by 2. So that's our triangle, times the distance between the two triangles, which in this case is the 13. Okay, so if we were to multiply that together, 10 times 10 divided by 2 times 13, or if you did 10 times 10 times 13 divide by 2, you would end up with 650 millimeters cubed is your answer. Okay, and that's how we do volume of a rectangular prism, a cylinder, and a triangular prism. Now for these, I'm just going to kind of tell you what the answer is, okay? I'll just go ahead and do the work. Okay, on number 4, okay, we've got a cylinder again. So we're going to be using this same formula, but I'm not going to be writing our basic formula down. I'm going to start with the specific formula. So in this number 4, okay, we're going to go volume is equal to, because it's a circle, pi r squared h for our cylinder. Okay, and then we got volume is equal to 3.14 times, well, this time what did I give you? I gave you this entire distance across, which is actually a diameter, but I need a radius. So that means we're going to cut that in half. So that's going to be 3 times 3 times the height of the shape, which is 5, which is the distance between the bases. So if we type that into the calculator, 3.14 times 3 times 3 times 5, you end up with 141.3 meters cubed. Number 5, we're doing the same thing. So volume is equal to pi r squared h. Volume is equal to 3.14 times. Now this time I did give you the radius. So 7 times 7 times, and the distance between the bases is 15. We type that into the calculator, and we end up with 2,307.9 feet cubed. Now, number 6 is a sphere. Okay, it's a ball. Okay, so this is what we talked about just the other day. So our formula is volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so that means volume is equal to 4/3 times 3.14 times, and I need the radius 3 times. But what did I give you? I gave you that entire distance across, which happens to be the diameter. So we cut that in half, and we get 6 times 6 times 6. So again, a very demonic problem. Okay, so if you remember correctly, the way we type this into the calculator is 4 times 3.14 times 6 times 6 times 6, and then you do divide by 3. If you type it in that way, you should come up with an answer of 904.32. And since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, this 2 doesn't do anything to the 3, so our answer is just 904.3 yards cubed. Okay? And now for some cones and pyramids. Okay, now if you remember on this one, okay, this one had a basic formula of volume is equal to 1/3 capital BH. And again, for the capital B, we're going to plug in whatever our base formula is in order to find the area of that base. So volume is equal to 1/3, and in this case, it's a cone, so that means it's pi r squared times h. And now we just plug in our information. So volume is equal to 1/3 times 3.14 times, well, the radius, well, I gave you a diameter. Okay, so I need to cut that in half. So half of 32 is 16. So it's going to be 16 times 16 times the height of the shape, which is 35. So the way we type this one in is 3.14 times 16 times 16 times 35, and then divide that by 3. Okay, and in this one, whenever you do this particular one, you end up with 9,378.13 with a bar on the 3, because that 3 repeats. So since this 3 is not big enough to do anything to that 1, our answer is just 9,378.1 centimeters cubed. Now number 8. Now number 8 is a triangular pyramid. Okay, so again, our formula is 1/3 capital BH. But because it's a triangular pyramid, we're going to plug the triangle formula in to that capital B. All right, so this one, volume is equal to 1/3 times, okay, your base and your height of your triangle, again, are the two pieces that are touched by the right angle. So that's 10 times 12, divide by 2, times the overall height of the figure, which in this case, oh my goodness, what was that? Which in this case is that distance right there, okay, this distance right here, which is 17. So you type that in, and the way you do this one is you do 10 times 12 times 17, divide by 2, or 10 times 12 divided by 2, times 17, and then divide the whole thing by 3. And if you do that, you end up with 340 inches cubed. Okay, now number 9 is a rectangular pyramid. So again, we start off with the same formula. Volume is equal to 1/3 capital BH. So volume is equal to 1/3, sorry about that, 1/3 length times width for the base times the height. So volume is equal to 1/3 times, well, the base is a 17 by 32 times, and the distance from the base to the farthest point away is 24. So we type 17 times 32 times 24, divide by 3, and you end up with 4,352 feet cubed. So that's kind of the skill practice of this particular assessment, where you're just finding volume of some three-dimensional shapes. Now let's talk about some word problem type things, some star questions. So there's 3 on this particular warm-up. Your test tomorrow will be entirely multiple choice and star formatted. Okay, so let's look at question number 10. A rainwater collection barrel has the dimensions shown. Okay, so we've got a barrel, and this barrel is in the form of a cylinder. Okay, it says, which explanation describes how to determine the number of cubic inches the barrel holds when at capacity? In other words, when it's full. Okay, so the first thing I would do, since we're talking about determine the number of cubic inches, well, cubic inches is dealing with volume. So you look for your volume formula. And we know our volume formula, our main formula, is capital BH. Okay, so our capital B in this particular instance is going to be a circle. So that's pi r squared times h. Now, what I do, since I do have some numbers in there, is I would actually plug in my values. Okay, now I want you to notice something in your answers. Notice in this answer they have pi left there. They have pi left there. Okay, so if they have pi left in your answer, that means we don't plug in 3.14. So you just leave it alone. So the way we would do this then is volume is equal to pi times r squared. Well, I gave you a diameter here. This barrel's got a diameter, so that means we need half of that. So that means I'm going to do 11 times 11, or 11 squared, times how tall it is, which in this case is 34. So then we come down here and we look for an explanation that shows us that kind of math. Okay, so it says A, we're going to do 11 pi times 34 times 34, because the area of the base, 11 pi, is multiplied by the height squared. And is that what that formula says? No, we're not going to square a height. We're going to square a radius. Okay, so it's going to be 121 pi times 34, because the area of the base, 121 pi, is multiplied by the height. Well, how did they get 121? Well, if you actually take the 11 times 11, multiply those together, what do you get? You get 121. So is this 121 pi times 34? Yes, it is. So B is actually the correct answer. Now 22, how did they get 22? Oh, that's right. 22 is the actual diameter. So do we do the diameter times 1156? Because the diameter of the base is multiplied by the height squared? No. Is it 484 times 34 because the diameter of the base squared is multiplied by the height? No. It is 121 pi times 34 because the area of the base is 121 pi, and that's multiplied by the height. So that would be the correct answer on that one. Okay, so now let's look over here at number 11. A company's logo was designed using circles of 3 different sizes. The diameters of the 2 circles are shown. Okay, so I've got a diameter here of 6 and a diameter here of 12. Okay, which measurement is closest to the area of the largest circle in square centimeters? So I need the largest circle. Okay, so if this part right here is 6 and this part here right here is 12, what is the entire length? The entire length would be 18 centimeters. Okay, now that would be the diameter of the big circle, which is one of the pieces I need to find. Okay, now in order to find the area of that largest circle, we need to use A equals pi r squared, because it's just area of a circle. Okay, so this one's not a volume problem, it's an area problem. And so we got area is equal to 3.14 times, well, if the whole thing is 18, that means my radius is 9. So 3.14 times 9 times 9. And when you multiply 3.14 times 9 times 9, you end up with 254.34, which is D. Okay? Simple as that. Now, number 12, last question on our review. It says Bob wants to paint a rectangular wall that measures 16 feet by 9 feet. The wall contains a window with the dimensions shown. If Bob does not paint the window, what is the total shaded area he will paint? So in other words, we've got a wall that is a 9 by 16 and you got a window in the middle of it. And I want to know what is all of this part right here shaded. What is that area? So basically this is kind of like a donut problem. It's a rectangular donut problem. You're going to find the whole thing and cut out the window. Okay, so the first thing is the wall. And the wall can be found by doing length times width, which would be 16 times 9. And when you multiply that together, you get 144 feet squared. Then you have to do the window. Well, the window is 8 by 5, which when you multiply that together is 40. Now, in order to find just the shaded area, we're going to do the wall minus the window. So, and if you take the 144 and subtract the 40 from it, you end up with 104 feet squared. Okay, so which one is my answer? My answer is G. Okay, so your test tomorrow, it's over volume and area. Okay, it will be on the computer. Okay, it is just 10 questions long. Okay, so we'll complete the test and they'll have you complete some kind of a little bonus activity or whatever afterwards. Okay, so please make sure you study a little bit and make sure you complete this review. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow.